We just basically hop right into it, Eddie. Thanks for coming, being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Do you know how long you've been sober?
Sure.
How many days you have?
I do.
I know because I had to read mine off yesterday.
As soon as I open this app.
Yeah.
1,335 days, 5 hours, 34 minutes, and 31 seconds.
Nice. Did you ever think you'd get that far?
Absolutely not. Nope. I thought that I was going to be a lifer to the lifestyle that I was addicted to. And when I was in it, I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Didn't think I'd be where I'm at today. And I never thought I would accomplish some of the things I've accomplished just in the last few years.
Yeah, it's hard to see past the whatever you're abusing. And it's cool that you said you're addicted to the lifestyle. It wasn't one particular, substance.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. I guess I don't know if it's the hunt of it or I guess all encompassing everything that happens when you are using.
Yeah. And it's hard to say. It's the rush. I mean, the impulsiveness of, just living that way, I guess, just living that kind of lifestyle for sure. Yeah.
What was your drug of choice?
My drug of choice, it kind of changed over the course of my 10 years in addiction, basically. Started off, I got in a car accident in 2009. I went to the doctor. I got prescribed painkillers. And I was on Norcos for about 6 or 7 years. Yeah. And I mean, did I really need them that long? No. Was I really in as much pain as I convinced my doctor that I was in? No, not really. Like
I was just thinking, the constipation with Norco.
Oh God, the reversal
for 7 years.
Yeah. It never, I didn't struggle with constipation.
Yeah, oh, good.
So that's a good thing. Yeah, so about 7 years of my drug dealer was my doctor, and he ended up started, I don't know where it came, but somehow it came up in our conversation. I didn't even know what fentanyl was. This is probably in about 2014 or 15. So it wasn't like really being sold on the streets like it is now.
Yeah.
But he started prescribing me these fentanyl patches. And I remember putting one on. I was like, this is, I'm not even going to use this. It didn't even really do anything. So I started piling them up in my one of my cabinets at my house. And for about probably 4 or 5 months, I just saw they're kind of stacked up.
Yeah.
One of my buddies came over and he was selling me pills, and I was because of course I was running out early and I had to buy extra ones. So I started talking about fentanyl, and I started talking about the fentanyl patches I have. He's like, "Oh, dude, you can smoke those and you get high off of them." And I was like, "What? Really?" I was like, "Huh." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy. I'm not like." So, and he's like, "Yeah, can I have one?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I gave him one, and he kind of like showed me like what he meant, and he did it. And then he started nodding off, and I'm like, "Hey, like, no, you can't be smoking this like this at my house. That's crazy." I was like, "You need to go do that somewhere else. I'm not gonna, you can't."
Yeah, we don't allow drug use.
And overdose.
Well, yeah, I was gonna overdose at my house. I mean, I was like, shit. I was like, so, about a week went by, and I started getting curious, and I started wondering, and I went and started pulling them out, smoking them one by one. So
that's crazy how he planted that bad seed.
Yeah.
And that's all it took. And you drew the line. We always talk about you draw the line you're not going to cross, and then you end up crossing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I crossed it, man. I was scared too. I mean, I seen what he started nodding off the way he did right in front of me. It was like, I never did that when I took Norcos. It kind of gave me the energy, or, I don't know, felt like it did anyways. So yeah, that's where things started getting a little more intense in my addiction.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't just running out of my Norcos anymore early and buying more Norcos. I was also running out of my fentanyl patches early. I had to come up, but I was really good at manipulating my doctor. I was not in pain. So the average patches they give you are 10, and I got them to prescribe me like 15 every month versus a 10. So just that manipulation, it's, all a part of that disease that keeps us going. So now I'm running out of fentanyl patches, buying fentanyl patches, and those were not cheap. Those were probably $50 a patch, something like that.
Really?
They're expensive. So spending a lot of money each month to feed my addiction. And that kind of came to I came to a realization that, man, I can't afford this. This is a lot of money. I got sober. I went to an outpatient, intensive outpatient treatment center here in town. And I got sober. I was sober for about 6 months. And on December 30th, 2016, I relapsed. I went back to my doctor. I hadn't been there in 6 months. I got him to prescribe me the same amount. I was sober for 6 months, so he gave me 180 Norcos and 15 patches, and went home. Didn't tell my wife my ex-wife at the time. I waited for her to go to bed, and I went out over into our closet, and I pulled out the patches, and I started smoking them. And next thing you know, I'm unconscious on the bathroom floor. I wake up, and I have 2 paramedics over me, so I'd overdosed. She said that I was blue, I wasn't moving, I wasn't breathing. She cracked my rib, and while she was doing CPR on me.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Yeah, it's always brought up in the meetings how you go from wherever you stopped at, you always pick right back off where, right there at that spot, or even more advanced. And you definitely seem like you advanced.
yeah.
But you were also, your tolerance wasn't there either. Your body wasn't used to it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did it stop for you then?
No. So, I went to the hospital. My wife ended up leaving. The paramedics came, and they arrived at like 10:30, got me into the hospital. I was Narcan 3 times. And the next, about 5 o'clock in the morning, my ex-wife, she left the hospital, went home. My mom came and stayed at the hospital, and 8 or 9 o'clock, my mom, they released me. My mom drives me back home. I remember walking through the front door of my house, and I shut the door, and I'm walking to my bedroom. My mom, she just dropped me off. So I'm walking to my bedroom, and I put my hands in my pocket, and I've got a pen and a lighter in one pocket, and I have foil with fentanyl on it in the other pocket. So I'm walking, and I'm taking a hit at the same time, opening the bedroom door with my elbow and walking into my bedroom. And my wife, she said that she just woke up, and as she heard me walk through the door, and my eyes just rolled in the back of my head, and I'm out again. and CPR again. Went to they took me to KMC. They took me to 3B.
Yeah.
Yep. So that time, one of my friends at the time, he was a BPD officer. He came to the call because he heard where it was at, and so that time I woke up at KMC with him standing over me saying, "You can get out in 3 days."
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, I kind of laugh about it now, but I was pissed off about it at the time. And I'm thankful. I mean, I'm very thankful that I am where I am today, and that I lived. And I actually wasn't as thankful now as I am now for it as then. I wasn't, because my addiction just got worse, from there moving forward.
It kept getting worse.
Yep, kept getting worse. For a couple months, still battled with trying with my addiction with fentanyl and Norcos, and I got to the
Is your doctor, knowing all this, still prescribing?
He's still he was still yeah. I mean, I didn't tell him.
Well,
I don't know if you would.
Yeah, you would think that the medical, if you're in the hospital.
But unless I didn't, I don't know if maybe they would have had to get some kind of release probably for me to release it. I'm sure I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I continued to battle that for a few months, and then I started to quit, or I tried to quit on my own, or I kind of did, or I was sober for like 3 days. I was going through withdrawals is what it was. And I was at work working nights one night, and I walk into, we had a lab at the place that I used to work at where I was working nights at. And there was a guy in there, and he had a line of meth lined out. And he got startled because I walked in, and then he's like, "Hey, you want some?" And I mean, we worked together for a long time, so I knew him, and I don't know, it just I wasn't expecting that, but I was like, fuck, screw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your first time trying street drugs, or did you switch over from the fentanyl patches to street?
So, I mean, I had done coke a few times here and there at parties and stuff. So, I mean, I smoked weed a little bit in high school, and so I was about 18. I don't know, around 18 or 19. I had stopped. But as far as meth, yeah, that was my first time using meth.
What was your initial? Was it like, why was I messing around with fentanyl this whole time? I love meth, or was it just like, I don't like this meth stuff?
Well, I was kind of going through the withdrawals, and I was trying to get off of the fentanyl. So I thought, well, I've read that the withdrawal, you don't really withdraw from meth like you do from opiates. Yeah. So I was like, I'll just start doing some meth and get through these opiate withdrawals, and then I'll just kick the meth.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was my plan.
The stupid disease, man.
That was my plan. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Did you continue on with meth then for a while?
3.5 years later, about 6 months later, from that first line, in that first 6 months, I had lost my house. I lost my job that I had for 11.5 years. And I lost my marriage. So, yeah.
Wow.
Sounds about right.
And that was within like the first 6 months. And then it took me another 3 years to get my head straight enough to actually, get sober. So
Yeah.
What was the thing that? Well, let me go back. I wanted to ask you how bad was that? You said you were in a real bad accident. It's a car accident.
mm-hmm.
What did you hurt in that?
My back. I got T-boned. I was a passenger and we got T-boned by a drunk driver. And I mean, my back was I was in pain at first.
Yeah.
Like I was hurt and I went to the doctor because I was in pain, you know, and during the accident my spine separated because of like the whiplash.
Right.
And it pinched my my cervical cord that goes down or my cervical cord, right? Yeah. That goes down your spine, and there's spinal fluid in it. When it snapped back together, it pinched it and created a bubble or something inside. So I have a bubble inside inside of my spinal cord. So I don't know. That's and that's where a lot of the pain was coming from at first, but everything kind of went away, and I stopped feeling, and it stopped having pain. I don't know when it stopped, but yeah.
Yeah. What did you ever use opiates in street form?
I did, yes. So a couple times I used heroin, and then I used so once I had lost everything and I was out on the streets using meth, I came across heroin and I tried it, and I came across fentanyl in the pill form, and I had smoked those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they were around. I didn't. It scared me, but so I didn't. I don't know. I did it. I just tried it a few times, but yeah.
How long were you out on the street?
About 2.5 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Living out of my car, out of trap houses, and a little bit at my mom's house, but I try not to stay there much because I just I feel real guilty, and I didn't want her to see me like that and what I was going through. Yeah.
Wow. What was something, or when you look back at that time that you were out in the street, is it all just like a big blur to you, or were there points and times where was there, because when we're in the addiction or alcohol abuse, was it, you think you're okay, like you said, you start crossing your own lines, that you won't do this, that you won't do that. Did you know that you were pretty messed up when you were out in the street, or were you thinking that, this is just...
There was, yeah, I mean, I knew that I was, there was, I did know that I was messed up, but at first, starting off, I didn't think I was that bad.
Yeah.
And the more I would say that, I would start, over this period of 3 years, eventually it started clicking, dude, you keep saying that you're not that bad, and, you can't, feed yourself. You can't, you don't have a place to live. You can't get a job. You can't,
you start looking at the evidence.
Yeah. I started kind of looking at exactly. Yeah.
What I was going to ask you, what led you to finally, because how many times did you overdose?
Twice. Yeah. There was a third time too. Somewhere right around, that was that was street fentanyl that I had got. And I don't remember when that happened, but I know that it happened. I was at Yeah.
What what led you to finally get clean? Were you just tired of the streets? Was there a particular, because for a lot of the people, a lot of times that I talk to when they come on the podcast, is there's like a certain moment where they get fed up, but there's a big event a lot of times around that. Was there any big event for you?
Where you reach that, you get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about the gift of desperation.
Yeah.
You know, when you hit that, you're like, you know what? You've been in that rut for so damn long. You're like, something needs to change.
Yeah.
You're so used to, because you figure out how to survive. You know, you're hanging around, you find people and you learn things, and this is the life. But, you know, fortunately for you, you had 11 and a half years of success. So at some point that started to kind of probably you're getting these reminders of, man, you know, I'm not sure I like this. Sometimes it took me a long time, years, to finally be like, you know, this is not working.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's it, you know, just those reminders along the way, thinking back while I was in my addiction about, you know, that, you know, just some of I don't know that, I guess, like, I don't know if I was successful, but I know that I knew that I could be in a better position than I was. And, you know, you're out there on the street and, you know, you find these ways to survive, you know, these hustles. Everybody's a hustler on the street, you know, all of a sudden, then they've got these hustles. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I was like, dude, this is doing way too much. Like, it's easier to go get a job and work for 8 hours than it is to go, you know, plan out a hustle, you know, get all of this trouble.
There's a lot of work involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning, a lot of work. And I'm like, dude, this is not worth a lot of stress on me, because I wasn't really, like, you know, I guess raised like that, I guess, in a sense. So, I mean, yeah, just those little moments. Also, you know, I have kids. I have a family that, you know, I care for and I love. And, you know, I had all this shame and guilt built up inside me, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. So, you know, it's just me trying to problem solve, like, how can I fix this? How can I, you know, I guess, you know, fix the things that I've done. And I come to the realization that I wasn't going to be able to fix anything while I was still using, because I had tried that and that wasn't working. So, the next best thing was to get sober.
And so what was your first big move, your first big step to get that?
So there was one step that I took where I just kind of cut cold turkey, and I was sober for about a week, and I was I went to an interview. I had an interview, and that didn't really work. So right after that, the big first step that I really took to get sober was to leave California and to leave the where I was at, because it was to leave Bakersfield, really. And I left to South Carolina. My dad had just retired out there a few years before I had moved out there. And so I had a place to go. My dad and I mean, we get along on a good day, I guess. I know that he really didn't want me to come out there.
Were you straight with him? Did you tell him what your circumstances were?
Yeah, he did. I don't know that he really, I don't know if he wanted to really help me or not, but I just kind of was like, I don't know. I kind of just showed up, and I knew he would help me if I showed up, but I know he wasn't happy with what the situation I was in. I don't think he had a lot of trust in me that I was actually going to do what I was going to say I was going to do, because I have brothers and sisters that have went through addiction and also, and so they my parents understand, some of the symptoms of addiction, the manipulation, the lying, I'll do it this time. This time I'm for reals this time, I'm going to do it this time kind of, and,
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your parents struggle with any of that?
No, my mom never did. My mom's side of the family, there is no, really no addiction that I can think of. On my dad's side, I had some uncles that did.
Yeah.
My dad didn't. No.
So you didn't grow up around it at all?
Other than my brothers and sisters.
How many brothers and sisters you have?
I've got 3 sisters, and a brother and a stepbrother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You would think, seeing other people struggle and all the crap that they go through, you would think that would be, a lesson. You're like, that's not what I'm going to do, but you end up right in the fold.
But you don't think that it's going to happen to you. It's not. It's that'll never happen to me. Type of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my parents were both, addicts, so it was that disease was just laying dormant. It was just something, the at the right time, whatever it was, and then just to come along and spark it up, whatever that was. And I went in reverse. I messed around with some weed. Alcohol was, even though my dad was an alcoholic, it didn't become my thing, but I started with meth. That was my, I've said it on this program. I did it, and I was like, I could tell you that everything changed in that moment. I was like, this is just everything I want, in a little plastic bag, Mm-hmm. And then I went to, when I stopped, I went through a residential rehab, and then I had 4 years clean, and I had hurt my neck, and then a doctor prescribed me Vicodin, and then it was 10 years of addiction to, all the opiates in the circle, just getting more and more powerful, and then to fentanyl patches. I used to bust my fentanyl patches, and I used to rub that shit on my gums and under my tongue. Someone told me I could do that. And then I went to it was just got so bad. I got desperate and went to the methadone clinic, and I was on methadone for a year. They tapered me. And then I went back to meth, so as I circled back, and I was like, shit, so it's kind of a revolving door there of sorts, but, it was in my family. And then I worry about my kids,
Mm-hmm.
So they're,
Yeah. Do you think though, and I'm just asking this, you think had you not have been exposed to it via your doctor because you got injured, that you would ever come across an issue like that?
I don't know.
It's hard to say, but a lot of what ifs, but
yeah,
it's just those receptors, man. Once the opiate hits, that's what it was. Vicodin, because he told me, "Oh, take a couple of them. You're a big guy." So I took 2 Vicodin, and it reminded me of that buzz I got from doing meth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, this is great. And it's prescribed by a doctor. Then I had 3 doctors, and I've said that on this program, all unbeknownst to each other, all writing me prescriptions all the time.
Yeah.
Before they tightened everything up, it was terrible. But yeah, you're telling us, your doctor is just like, like it's candy. You just get, 6 months, and then he hits you with 180 Norco and 15 patches and says, have a nice day. Mm-hmm. You're like, hell yeah.
I mean, it was the same. It was go in there once a month, And he would ask, what's your pain level? And I always said 9, because I'm not 10, because I'm not crying.
Yeah.
But it was always a 9.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I mean, come on. I mean, just like the way I said it, just 9. Like, it's like every time it's the same.
It's almost like the when they brought out the medical weed cannabis. So
That's a joke.
Yeah, you FaceTime them, and what are you hurting? This, that. Well, I'm gonna say this. Okay, and it was less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That was the bridge from opiates to meth for me, medical marijuana.
So where marijuana is a gateway drug for you.
For an addict, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I just think it is.
Yeah.
It can be. As so can alcohol.
Yeah.
It's a bridge to something. If you have an addict's, the mind, I mean, you can be addicted to anything. I know people that are addicted to weed. And so.
Yeah. It seems to be the hardest thing to get off of for a lot of people now is weed.
We've seen people in our meetings struggle with coming off of marijuana. And it's like back when I was back in my adolescence smoking weed and stuff, you could just quit smoking because the potency wasn't there like it is now. Mm-hmm. It's so potent now that it's you get locked into a true addiction with that. Sweating it out. I've seen people vomiting, from withdrawals and stuff, no appetite, losing sleep, and you've seen it. Mm-hmm. It's just terrible. It's crazy. Who would have ever thought? It's right up there with all the addictive substances.
To kind of go back to what your question, if my doctor had never prescribed me that, would I have, used meth or, and I kind of had to think back like to that around that time when I started taking it. I was really against meth. Like that was like one thing. Like I was like, I'm never gonna do. I would never, because I seen what it did to my brothers and my sisters. Mm-hmm. So, I had an idea of how bad it was and what people go through whenever they're using it. So, I mean, there's a good chance that maybe I would have never experimented with meth. Because I used, I did, but I did use meth because I was going through withdrawals and I was trying to get off of opiates. That was my trick that I was gonna use to get off. But at the same time, I don't know. I still can't, really say, but yeah.
You think of the timing of that too. You walked in on that dude doing it. You just right place at the right time, and it's like, oh sure, if it'll help me stop feeling like shit, because I know opiate withdrawals are awful.
Yeah, and that's what I was going through. Like I would stop. I was a couple month period. Whenever I walked in and it was offered to me, I was a couple of months into, like, I would stop and I would make it for a few days and I would, relapse, but I would stop. And then, so it was just kind of like this really up and down. But yeah, it was like perfect timing that happened. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sam.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you, when you went and stayed with your father, did you get any type of any clinical support or any type of medical help with your addiction, or did you just? I
did not. So right before I lost my job, I went to 2 residential treatment centers, and I had left both of them early, 2 weeks early, and I went to another IOP program, and I left about a month and a half in. And that was like right before I had lost my job. And then, so then I went on that 3-year spurt of using meth and not having anything. And then, when I went to my dad's in South Carolina, it was during COVID. There wasn't very many resources available at that time. I remember trying to call like AA and NA, and they had online stuff, but at that time, I wasn't.
I did AA through COVID too. Didn't work.
Oh, I did NA.
Yeah.
On Zoom.
Yeah.
And
that's why I always ask you about how you do. Because you're one of the most dedicated guys to your meetings that you attend, and you do everything through Zoom.
Yeah. 95%, maybe even more. I go to we go to the occasional, we try to go at least twice a month to Aspire and then hit but the alumni meetings are, we do check-ins, so, it still has therapeutic value, but, it works if you, they always say it works if you work it. If you do work the program, that it'll work. Zoom meetings alone aren't going to do anything.
Right. Yeah,
there's a comprehensive approach.
We discussed that the other day. Meetings alone doesn't help.
It's got to be comprehensive. You gotta dig deep. You gotta do things like, I'm not saying for everybody. You got to get some kind of program in your life that's going to cover everything, whatever that is.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah. What was that like for you, Eddie? Because you didn't go to a program out there, did you?
So when I was in South Carolina and I was doing, trying to find a program, it so happens, and I don't mean to get religious on you guys right now, but okay. So before I got sober, I was not, religious. I didn't go to church or anything. I'm in South Carolina at the time. There's
the Bible Belt.
The Bible Belt. Yeah, my dad was telling me that you're in the Bible Belt. I'm like, what does that mean? And like, so my girlfriend at the time, she went with me. She left with me to South Carolina, so we both went. And she asked me, she's like, do you believe in God? And I'm like, I don't know, something kind of clicked. I noticed I was really hesitant on responding to her, and that was probably where that's where my life started to change. I say I didn't do a 12-step program. I did a 1-step program, and that was turning my life over to Jesus.
That's great.
And I started going to church. And my parents have gone to church, so we started watching their church online from South Carolina, and that's ever since I've been sober. Since within the first week of being in South Carolina, I have either attended church via Zoom until we actually found a church. And after South Carolina, my wife, she's my wife now. So my wife and I moved to Nebraska, and we found a church there. We actually flew out here and I got baptized at my parents' church down here. It's Discovery Church over here on White Lane. The pastor over there, Pastor Jason, he's, his big thing was wake up in the morning and spend 5 minutes of the word, 5 minutes in prayer, and 5 minutes in worship. And I've been doing that pretty much every day.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. See, my mom is a one-stepper, and she's been clean for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so is her husband, my stepfather. He's same thing, one-stepper. He turned his life over in a little church up in the mountains, and that was it. Wow. Same. He's got over 30 years. And so some people, it works.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me, that's where it started for me was a spiritual journey. And it worked, but I lost sight of everything. I just, because I wasn't married at the time. I was young, and then I got married, and then profession, and then kids, and then everything else, and then God was non-existent in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I can't say that I ever put God first in my life ever again until this moment, until.
Yeah, I think I'm a little like you in that, because I
wanted to.
Yeah,
but
I grew up in a Christian household, and I went to a Christian high school, and it's always been something that's always been there. But I don't know if it's just the connection that we have, but within those rooms or those meetings that we have, that's where I've never felt closer to God than today. Even when I was in church itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was, it's really just probably me and my perspective on things, and not wanting to give up control. And now that I have, there is space now for God. But yeah, what was that intrigues me? What you said about how you were hesitant to tell your girlfriend at the time, your wife now, but the God question. What was it about that? Was it because you just didn't know? Because it doesn't sound like you had, other than your parents kind of going, you really didn't have any idea. Was it?
I didn't really have any belief in God. I was very, I didn't believe in God. And I think that when she asked me and I hesitated, and I noticed like I hesitated, and I started questioning, like I realized I was actually, I for some reason I felt like afraid to say that I didn't believe in God when she asked me. And it just kind of, I never had been afraid to have that conversation on why I didn't believe, because I would have all these great reasons why God didn't exist.
So you were very against, so you had an idea of God, which was there was no God.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Because now you're,
But again, the timing was perfect. The person you love just happens to be, she's asking you a loving question. You know what I'm saying? She's like, do you believe in God? And you're like, it's a great question. And for you to sit there and, you're like, she planted there's some good seed there. She threw that in there. It was a simple question. That's it. It's one of the steps. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. It's not an instantaneous thing. It's gotta be the soil. The symbolism and stuff.
Yeah.
Some seed was thrown on some good soil there, because you were, at this point, I think you were so desperate. You're just like, I need something. And that was.
Yeah, that desperation's a requirement.
Yeah.
I also think that coming through thinking back, like there was also like that realization, like that I had put drugs, I was putting meth so far above everything else in my life that I was actually like worshiping, meth like a god, like so it was like that had so much control over me. There has to be something else that can counteract that.
Yeah, I think that's where the room for me came in, was because I realized that the alcohol was my God. Definitely was. I thought about it. I couldn't, I worshipped alcohol the way that God wanted me to worship him. It was my first thought. It was, okay, where am I going to get some more at? How am I going to get the money to get it? That's the type of effort. That's why when people talk about excuses, in groups and stuff like that, about, not making meetings, or not not putting their best foot not putting that full effort into it. I mean, you did it for your drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not give yourself the chance to, that was something that was an eye-opening moment for me, was like, man, I got to do recovery the way that I drank, and that was all the time. Didn't matter if I was sick. Didn't matter if my kids were sick. Didn't matter if I had to, take my kids somewhere. It didn't matter. So that's the type of effort that I need to put forward. Maybe not for everybody, but that I have to put forward in being in recovery. And having that connection, that conscious, intentional connection with God.
Yeah.
Not just, because something that's always stuck with me, I heard somebody say this a while back, and it was never like, it was that time that it was hard for you to explain that if you believed in God or not. For me, it's never been hard. It's always been, yeah, I believe in God. So, that was never an issue for me.
Yeah.
I could be drunk and tell you, yeah, I love God, but somebody had said, I heard a pastor say it one time, he says, well, even the devil believes in God, so there's nothing without the belief is I don't want to say irrelevant, but it kind of is. It's your effort to choose him as a God and to worship him the way, I worshiped alcohol.
Yeah. And to continuously build that relationship with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an active, evolving. It's not stagnant. It's you do your praise and prayer, and you said it at the last meeting I attended with y'all. It was you said what you do in your quiet time, in your private time, before anybody gets to see you or whatever. That's what it counts, and that's when I do it. I'm up at 5 a.m, and I'm sending these guys messages at by 5:30. I'm sure I annoy the crap out of them.
Oh, but my phone's on silent. So
I put okay. Blocked me.
No, I get it. I get it when I wake up.
But I put my praise music on.
Yep.
As soon as I get to the kitchen, it's on. Even before that, though, as soon as I am conscious, I've trained myself to start surrendering.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is when I start surrendering. Good morning. Good morning. I mean, I'm taking a leak and I'm like, good morning, Lord.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even joking.
No, yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
And so, because I got to do that, that is number one. That's where it's got to be. And then I start doing my readings. And so then I start sharing, and that's, this morning, everybody was up nice and early and I quietly excused myself. I was like, and they know, they're like, all right, see you when, because they know that's what's working for me and they want to keep that there, so.
What does that look like for you, Eddie? I know you say that you do that, but I know it's different for everybody. Like you said, he gets up and he's using the restroom. I'm the same way. I'm a shower prayer. I'm laying down on my pillow still praying.
That's what I was going to say. When I first started doing this, it's so funny. Like, I would literally be like waking up out of bed, like, and I would instantly start to pray, and it happened so many, like, it happened for a while. Like, I mean, just, where I was just like halfway asleep, but like waking up and I started praying, thanking God for, everything. And, I wouldn't, nothing I have is mine. It's all, just like, giving thanks and grace. And I was like, man, is this like, is this, can I be doing it? Cause I would sometimes I'd fall back to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd wake up and I'd be like, man, did I just pray?
I have to restart? Yeah. Because that looks different for, you have kids, I have kids.
Yeah.
You have to work, I have to work. It's just everybody's got their lives. And it's not like because I know that for me, when I thought about having a connection with God, my dad was real intentional about it. One thing that he was, is every morning he would get to breakfast, because that's where he would do his reading at every morning, and he would do it intentionally. And and I always looked down on myself or thought, shameful in some way, because I didn't do it like the way he does it, or the way you would see it in a movie. Everybody gets up, everybody holds hand and everybody prays. What does that look like for an everyday person? That because I'm not my dad. I can't do those. I just don't have that regimented. Like the way he does.
Yeah.
But for me, it's, it's on the pillow, it's in the shower, but I think where I miss the connection, it's what I do now. And it's like you said, as soon as you wake up, it's from then on. Mm-hmm. It's from then on. It's not just a morning thing.
Yeah. Right.
It's not just
it's a whole
evening
thing.
Yeah, it's a constant, giving it up.
It takes practice.
Yeah.
And you got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
Because like everything else, it's like a muscle. You got to build it, and you build that relationship. And then, but from what I've learned is, God will meet you there. He'll, as long as you're putting in the wholehearted effort, you're gonna know he's there. I had a question for you. I'm sorry. Were you?
No. Good.
I'm not trying to chase anybody that's away from watching this podcast. If they're no, absolutely no God. But this is what I believe, and I believe it works. When you were out there, did you run into any messengers when you were on the street? Because I've seen a couple people. I was never myself in that predicament, but I have talked to some people that were. I ran to a guy at a Taco Bell, and I offered him some cash. I had a couple bucks. I was like, here. He's all, no. He's all, I'm okay. And I go, you're okay? He's like, yeah, I choose to be out here, man. He's all, I love my life out on the street. And he was sober, and, I looked at him a little more, and he was, he wasn't in rags or anything. He was, he was dressed okay, but he was, I don't know if he was a godly person or not. He just had that countenance, he had that look about him, like he was just at peace with whatever he was doing. So, I was just wondering if maybe you come across someone out there that was not doing any of the stuff that was going on around you.
Not that I can remember particularly. Not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any other influence on you seeking out the God that you? I mean, other than obviously you're in the Bible Belt and your girlfriend's asking you the question, was there anybody early on that
I know that my mom, since I've been sober, she told me that she keeps a prayer list, and that she's and that she prays that of course I'm on there, and that she's been praying for me for years that God would work a miracle, and that I would come in to believe in him, and that I would start making better choices in my life. So when she told me that, And this was after I'd gotten saved and baptized. And, she showed me this prayer list. It just, that kind of like, it kind of gave me like the chills kind of inside. I was like, dang, like she's showed me some other prayer lists that she's had. And she said, if she'll make these prayer lists every year, and almost all the prayers that she's prayed for these prayer lists have, happened to these people. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of, so I had people praying for me. I know that.
What's other than yourself and in your I know we're talking about recovery.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you have seen happen because of God's work? Anything major? I mean, him getting you to where you're at now is a big deal, but I'm just wondering if you're seeing that in other areas.
I mean, just the person that I am now. I mean, I'm a completely different person today than I was in the past. I mean, there's been so many different things in my life that have changed and have fallen in place, I guess, since I've been sober. I feel like there's a lot of miracles that have happened in my life. And I just me sitting here today is a miracle, to, some of the stuff that I had went through. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened that I went through when I was out on the street, high on meth, like that I still sit here and I don't even know like that, why I'm still alive, like I'm talking about involving guns and, in just some crazy situations that I was in,
Definitely had it.
When did you discover, or when did you realize that, or when did you hear your calling that this was what you wanted to do to help people that were in similar circumstances?
I think when I was a year sober, and right about a year, I had this this really these strong cravings. The pause kicked in, and I was right at 1 year sober, like within a couple of days from my clean date, and I was telling my wife, I told her, I was like, I want to go use, like I want to go, like I was like on the edge, like I wanted to go look for drugs, like I was like, let's go, like we can find it, I know I can find it, and I was ready to just throw everything that I had accomplished up until that point out the window, and luckily, my wife was like, you need to calm down. Like you need to, that's not what that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that. So, I had found a substance abuse counselor to go talk to when we were living in Nebraska, and I went and sat down and talked with him, and, he kind of helped me through some stuff, and he was a Christian guy, and we'd sat down and talked, and he started talking about how he became a counselor, a substance abuse counselor, and that kind of just laid on that started setting on my heart, and I've always wanted to, even when I was out there using on the streets, I feel like I kind of came from a little bit of a different background than a lot of the people. Not that I'm any different, or I don't think that, but just, I've really, some of those people hadn't had the chance. A lot of people that I was out there on the street using meth with didn't ever have a chance at life. And I felt like they deserved a chance at life, and they don't know what they're missing out on I guess. I feel like there's something more that they can be, you know, better for their life. I feel like they deserve a chance at happiness. I've seen so many broken people and hurt people that were just filling in these voids with meth. And, you know, I wanted to try to help them. You know, I feel like they, you know, maybe at least deserve a chance, you know, just through some of the conversations I had with certain people that I had ran into. So I always kind of had that. And then even on the street, it's like, well, you can't help anybody while you're high, you know? So.
Can't even help yourself. Can't help yourself.
Yeah.
It's funny, we talk about the 1 year, when people start approaching the 1 year clean.
Yeah, for you it's 2, and I didn't have much struggle during the 1 year.
I didn't really struggle, did I?
No. No, but you said that you made the comment that it always happens on your like your year 2 for you.
Oh yeah.
The relapse.
Thank you. Yes.
Which just passed, right?
Yeah, because I'd always put the brakes on my addiction, you know, whatever the circumstances were. So 2 years was always and always this part of the year. So I remember I talked about it a little bit in that meeting.
Yeah.
And so when I came to 2 years, even my family, they're like, 2 years, you know, you know,
what's going to happen? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, but they weren't, I think they were a little more relaxed this time around because they knew.
They see you work in a program.
Yeah. And so, but the 1 year I never even, it makes sense now because, you know, 1 year is when everything was really very chaotic in a person's life, probably whatever that was, whatever the, you know.
Yeah. I almost feel, I guess it's a little bit off the topic, but I always feel a little guilty when I'm in the room sometimes with people that are just, you know, the first couple of months or days or whatever, because I don't really feel like I have much to. My life is so good, you know, that I don't have, you know. It's almost, which is supposed to be that way. I'm supposed to not have those same issues that they're having anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm supposed to be figuring out how to live a better life. But, you know, I almost sometimes feel like I have nothing to say because I.
But you do. I listen to you talk.
Yeah.
You know, you're living your program. I mean, you're of service. You're going to the meetings still. You're doing all these things, and I see you. You know, I see you coming with your, you know, your wisdom. You know, I listen. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You know, and just your presence. You know, because you've got so many. How many days do you have now, anyway?
624.
There you go.
Yeah.
600, yeah. When the guy with day one, wondering what the hell am I doing here, looks at the guy with 624 days, and is like, okay, well, maybe I'm in the right spot, you know.
Yeah, and I look at him and I think, man, I'm in the right spot.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Like, oh crap, because the guy sitting behind me at the last meeting had a day. This is my first meeting day, you know, and then on the way. I was talking to Terry.
Yeah.
You know, he's been on this program.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, you remember day one? And he's like, oh, God. He thought he was going to die. I thought it was like, you know. So, yeah. That's the reminder. You know, it's just the you know, it's the reminder that nothing's changed. You know, everything is still garbage.
Right.
Back in that life, you know, that's a nice reminder. You know, even the guys that are 30, 60, 90 days all the way up to, you know, 1,300 days, or I can't, but this is great. You know, these are my examples, you know.
You know, being that you do have a lot of time, what is you said the prayer and the meditation and getting in the company of God every morning is what's helped you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you use, or any like tools that you use when I know that it's probably not happening all the time that you're getting cravings now, but when the thought does cross your mind, or can you talk about if it does and how it does, and then what do you do to turn that around?
Yeah. So, of course there's, I think the most like the only time I really get my cravings get triggered, or that I can at least think of anytime recently, has been like having like a drug dream and kind of waking up a little bit triggered. I don't always, I don't know, but it's not like anything intense. It's just, just kind of like, what was that about?
Yeah.
And kind of like move on. But I don't really get super triggered anymore. But I mean, I other than battling a lot of stress, sometimes like my mind tends to obsess over things or just, run rapid, I guess. I just try to think positive, I guess. I use positive self-talk a lot. And I think if I didn't have positive conversations with myself all the time, I would definitely I would maybe get triggered more. My mind would start going to places that, it shouldn't be, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah. Do you see the disease manifest itself in other ways in your life? Like not purely just drug use, like, the self-obsession, the self-loathing, any of those, do you see that and identify
Those
it?
characteristics?
Yeah, and say, oh, damn, there's the addiction. They're defects.
So this is one thing, so I mentioned I haven't done the 12 steps, but I've thought like, man, it would be nice to have a sponsor because I need somebody outside looking at me, calling out my character defects, because we can't really judge those on our own. I mean, we can, if we read about them, learn about them, we can. And I think that I've learned enough about the different types of character defects that I've tried to correct those with myself. But I don't know, like, I still feel like it would be nice to have somebody else kind of, to hang out with and kind of get to know a little bit better that could, tell me like if, I'm on the right track at least, I guess. But as far as, my addiction manifesting in other things, I mean, I go to school, I'm still going to college. I don't know that I've just really managed to, like, I have a really tight schedule, I guess, between school, church, work, and seeing my kids, spending time with family, studying. I don't know. I haven't really seen it manifest into like gambling or, any other really area or anything. Yeah. Not that I can think of. So.
Step work would be good because I need direction.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I consider myself an educated man and stuff. And, but until and that was our topic of discussion in our meeting today was, calling a defect a defect. And so it mentioned a sponsor. And so a sponsor, he's unbiased, he's there and he's going to say, yeah, he's going to be honest with you because he's got, why wouldn't he be? And, but yeah, even in the steps, it's, we ask God to remove all these defects of character, whatever those are, and then, they have a lot of, I'm not pointing to any fellowship directly, but, specifically though, there are those, when you look into, some of the fellowships or some of the
12-step programs.
the 12-step programs. I call them fellowships, but yeah, they dissect that, and I mean, it might be worth looking into.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million sponsors out there, and you can find anybody that would, you're not a newbie.
Yeah.
You got some clean time under your belt, and I think that any sponsor you'd bless them.
Yeah.
Just because they'd be like, oh heck yeah, I can work with this.
Yeah.
You're not all fresh and
Yeah, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. You're all, well, I'm a drug counselor.
Hey, counselors or therapists need see therapists too. So
yeah, I mean, I know, but I think
Yeah.
I would say that would probably be a good move, because like he was saying, about tools and stuff, that would be great, and I think it would probably take you to another level in your recovery.
It would benefit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
don't like it,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, like, I don't know if I know how to say this correctly, but, God is I've learned that if I'm not worshiping God, I'm worshiping something else. And so we talked about that a little bit, and God being a center part of my life. But having people around me that can say and help me recognize things I think is a big help.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only experienced good things down this road.
Yeah.
It's not like with drugs where it's, maybe your first hit and it's good and then that's it. Next thing you know, you're just chasing and chasing.
next thing you know, you lose everything.
Yeah.
You're not losing everything.
Yeah.
You're not losing everything this way.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything, I think that, like, at least for me, it's definitely worth, that's what I was going to ask you too. Do you have a mentor even in the church or anything that
So I
talk to?
I do go to Bible studies every Monday night. I don't have a mentor, but I'd go to Bible studies, and that's
Yeah.
But and I've
Not a
got people
pastor you're
that
close
I
with
don't-
or anything?
No, and I other than like my mentorship or my mentoring that I get right now is out of self-help books.
Yeah.
And I kind of would like to have, someone that's actually there that
Sure.
I can talk to, that can,
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't think it'll hurt anything. I think it's a good thing. What was life when you were a kid? How were you brought up? How were you raised?
I was raised, I had a fairly good childhood. I was born in Fresno. My parents divorced when I was 2. My mom moved here to Bakersfield. And I moved here with her, but I had a fairly good childhood. My mom was, loving, caring. I had my stepdad has been in my life since I was about 2 or 3. I think I was 3 when he came into the picture. I have a pretty good idea of how a family should kind of be, I guess, or as far as not being toxic. My mom and my stepdad never had alcohol in the house. They never drank. They were never. I've never seen my mom drunk. My dad, he did drink and he did party, and that's another thing. I say and my parents never used drugs. I'm gonna say my dad was probably an alcoholic, and I just wasn't there enough, around him enough to really know that. But I'm pretty sure that he was. He wasn't. he wasn't really in my life a lot, but he was there and supportive whenever he could be, I guess.
Did that affect you in any way? Now looking back now in retrospect, or having your stepdad there kind of take that?
I think having my stepdad there definitely kind of filled that that fatherly role that my dad wasn't really present for. But I think that there's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. As far as, I'm sure it affected me in some way. Yeah. I'm sure that there was definitely, I don't know. Just, I'm sure there was stuff that did affect me by my parents, not being together. But yeah.
What is, you get to do this all the time, but I'll ask it anyways. What is something you would tell somebody who is on the cusp of, thinks they have a problem, knows they have a problem, and wants to quit?
Oh man. If they were on the cuffs, on the fence I would probably sit down and ask them to, all right, let's weigh the pros and cons, and try to figure out like what direction they're wanting to go in with their life. Some people aren't ready, no matter how ready you want them to be. And you can't really push them. You gotta show them the evidence, and they can see it, and they can either be like, well, using drugs is still more beneficial to me right now, or using alcohol just seems a lot more fun than stuff isn't that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad yet. So it's kind of like, it's kind of trying to show them like where they're at in their life, and like, hey, it's, probably time for you to get sober, or it is, and at the end of the day, it's kind of up to them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
100%.
It's because some people, like that guy that lives on the street that you're talking about, there's people like that they're okay with not having anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay, and not necessarily that's not a bad thing. But I know just for myself, the life that I have today, and let me say that not much has changed in my home aspect. So I didn't lose everything. I didn't lose my wife. I didn't lose my kids. I was pretty damn close, but I didn't. And I say that because the only thing that has changed is me. Is my perspective, and I had to want that in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
I had to dig deep and find out why I was running to that alcohol and drugs and that particular lifestyle that I did. I had to get fed up with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to
Your
be
rock
there.
bottom is different than his rock bottom.
For sure.
Different than my rock bottom.
For sure.
I heard someone say in the meeting today, he said, I came to the point in my life when I decided to put down the shovel and ask someone for a ladder to get himself out of the hole, So that's just, it's different for everybody. It will take a beating. we will get our butts kicked for a very long time if we're allowed to, or if we come back from it.
Yeah. If we're that lucky. Yeah.
If we're that lucky. Yeah. But we will take a beating, man. We're resilient. Addicts are resilient.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I had to tell you this because when you first came in, the first day or so that I saw you there, I think it was your first day too.
It was.
I thought you were a pastor. I was like, oh shoot, they brought a pastor in from church. I was like, Pastor Eddie. So now that's whenever I talk to my wife and I tell her, she says, well, who did it today? And I was, oh, Pastor Eddie was there. So I told Eddie.
Oh, that's funny.
So, but Teddy was in here last week or the week before. He was our last podcast. And, you just never know. Like you, I don't picture you in that type of situation of, being on the street for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And like Teddy, he talked about being locked up, and he was locked up for 3 years, and he's just like, it's nothing, and then he's overdosed, 4 or 5 times, and I just never, so it's amazing that people that have gone through so much like you, because I remember my uncles and my aunts when they used heroin, and they were just a heroin addict. They were never coming out of it. They've accepted it. They've, said, okay, that's the way my life's going to be. So to see guys like you, guys like Teddy, to come out of it with your 3 overdoses, with the living on the street, with, losing everything, to see that it's not so much that you came out of it, but to see that you saw hope, that you saw a glimmer of hope, and maybe that was just that you just didn't want to live that way anymore or whatever, but you had seen that along the way. And it's good to see guys like you, guys like Teddy, Chris, of course, and other guys, girls too, come out of it, because, I've had a lot of people on and now, and it's, people have gone through some stuff, like you said, resilient, because they put themselves through a lot of, to where, what is your hope? I mean, you've lost everything.
Yeah.
For me, I guess it's so hard for me to see because I didn't lose everything. That I think that's why it's so amazing to me to see guys like you, guys like Teddy, is because for you to be in the position that you were in and to still say, you know what, I'm digging myself out of this hole. I'm going to stop, throwing dirt on myself.
I've got a girl in my meeting. I love her with all my heart. She's one of my best friends, and she lived in a tent. She was doing heroin in a tent, and she's young. She's your age, and she's beautiful. Now she's a drug counselor.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
nice.
So she's got her story, and I hear them. Yeah. People come back, man. That's another part of the resilience, man. Yeah. Is if you are determined to get it together like that, and you find the help you need, she's, I love her, man. I'll see her at the convention coming up in February, but she doesn't live in town. But it's just amazing. It's one of those human conditions to survive. If you realize you're not going to survive in your current state of being, you find another way that works. If that's what your determination is, you're gonna find a way to live. And I can tell you right now that we always say this. Someone that's shooting dope, whatever whatever their poison is, or probably knows they have a problem. They're not going to sit there and go, "Oh, this is they may have accepted it, as their problem. And like you were saying, your family members are like, this is it. I'm a heroin addict. This is how I'm going to die. But other people, something talks to the,
Right.
is able to break through the addiction for a minute and say, there's a better way. This is not normal for you,
Yeah.
because we're not, I can't see him. I can't see you being on the street, living out of your car, doing the things you told me you did, but I can't see it. You're Eddie, the counselor. You're the counselor at the place we go. I would never have known that. I can't see this guy, putting a bottle before his family. I know how he loves his family. And then the stuff I've done and the people we've.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The disease doesn't discriminate.
Nope.
It doesn't care who you are, how much you make.
No.
Where you live. As a matter of fact, the house that I bought when I was 21 was right down here off Panama and Buena Vista.
Oh, really?
Yep, 2-story, really nice house. Lost it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
But
it takes what it takes, though.
Not so much.
it does. Yeah. You mentioned, someone could be slamming dope. They know they have a problem, and that's kind of, that's, you got to kind of understand the differences between, admitting that you have a problem and accepting it. Admitting it, you're admitting it, intellectually. Yeah, I've got a problem. So what? I know I have a problem. You can tell me I have a problem. I know I have a problem, kind of thing. You can tell anybody I have a problem, but I'm still going to use. But until you accept that you have a problem, that comes from inside. And whenever you accept it, you realize that you have a problem and that you need to do something about it. So yeah,
because it seems like at that point they've just accepted this is how life is going to be for me. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the issues I take issue. One of the things I take issue with is that I wasn't working a program for so many years, and now that I'm working a program, it's like, this is just great. I have everything I need to survive and keep this addiction arrested, and I can't understand why people relapse from this point. I was a chronic relapser, but I didn't have a program. But that was before I knew I had a chronic disease too. Mm-hmm. So now that I know all that I know, I have I understand it happens. I know why it happens, but then I have people that I love dearly, some of my closest people in my meetings that relapse, that come back, day one, man. And it's like, we had a guy with 12 years relapse, but he'll tell you what the holes were in his. I think I was sharing that at that other meeting, on the last men's meeting, but it was, he knew exactly what his problem was. His priorities were not in his program. His priorities were, he had other things, sex and women and other things were that, that was his addiction in another form. But it caused him to relapse. He relapsed up here before he, relapsed physically.
It always happens mentally.
And so, it's just, I don't know. I sometimes it's just me now, and I'm not being arrogant. And it's not my ego. I'm not saying, I'm not,
You're so far removed from it. You have the knowledge now.
Because I quoted you directly in a meeting. I said, I don't know what some tragedy in my life, whether it happened to my wife or my kids or something terrible, financially ruined, some catastrophic event in my life is going to drive me to do, drive me backwards to using. I'd like to think I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that all this work I've been putting into my program would prepare me for something, such an event, God.
But you don't know until it happens. And then hopefully you have that.
Well, the most recently was my grandmother's death.
Yeah.
The program proved itself.
Yeah.
So, I just,
well,
I don't know.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I'm so happy we had this conversation today, man. You blessed me. You really did.
I really appreciate you guys inviting me out.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And
what about the question? What would you tell your younger self?
Oh yeah, what would you tell your younger self? And you don't have to go back to when you were a kid, but maybe when life was good, you're working at that 11-year job and before drugs started happening and the accident and you had your wife. Did you have kids at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kids and your own little family. Things were on the up.
I would tell myself to go to church and start working on building a relationship with God.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I still don't know what I could tell myself to get myself to listen.
To listen.
Yeah. To listen. Well, yeah.
You know, but you know, I would hope that if a relapse does happen, that any knowledge that I gain now will curb it right away.
Yeah.
You know, but then, like you know, yeah, it was fentanyl, but still, you know, you relapse and then you overdose twice in a matter of hours, you know, back to back. You know, so you are lucky to be here.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, then appreciate it. And thanks for, I really like having you in the groups. Been godsend to everybody there.
Yeah.
You know, I think I hear nothing but good things from everybody who attends, and that's with alumni and
Cool.
and new people. So I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time out. I know it's a job, but you know you can tell it's not just a job for you. You know, you seem to really try to get down to some root causes, even if it takes us forever to go to break or whatever. But we appreciate it. You know, we do, really.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right.